It's Monday morning. The trash is full, the fridge is empty, school forms need to be signed, a birthday is coming up, and someone has to remember the gift. These are the kinds of small everyday details that quietly pile up. Kate Mangino studies how these responsibilities, both physical and mental, are divided between partners. She's a gender expert and the author of Equal Partners: Improving Gender Equality at Home. She says this imbalance often comes down to what she calls cognitive labor, the invisible work of planning, organizing, and remembering everything on the to-do list. In many heterosexual relationships, where both partners are working and earning money, women are still handling the majority of this work.
I raise the fact that it is definitely the physical tasks that are important. You have to think about washing the dishes and doing the shopping and bathing kids and grooming pets. But there's also the cognitive labor that's really important, the anticipating of the needs, the management, the oversight of schedules and calendars, knowing what's coming up next and being prepared for it, evaluating situations, making decisions. There's a lot of household work, just like a project manager does. In an office setting, there's a lot of project management work that happens in the home, and that work isn't necessarily doing something physically, it's in your mind.
A 2023 Pew Research Center study found that even in marriages where partners earn about the same, husbands spend roughly 3.5 more hours per week on leisure than wives. Meanwhile, wives spend about 2 additional hours on caregiving and roughly 2.5 more hours on housework. The data shows that even as financial roles have evened out, responsibility at home hasn't followed at the same pace. Mangino says that deep-rooted societal norms still affect people's breakdown of who does what when it comes to physical household chores. While it can appear that both partners are doing an equal amount based on difficulty, there are tasks that women tend to do that are more relentless. This can include daily, repetitive chores like tidying up, organizing, buying groceries, and packing meals.
If you miss a day, it's very obvious. If you stop washing dishes for one day, if you stop feeding your children for one day, the household is going to notice. It's going to be problematic, to say the least. And these everyday routine tasks follow you on vacation. They follow you on holidays. It's very hard to ever relax or get away or have a break. Outdoor tasks are labeled as intermittent, so they don't necessarily have to happen every single day. Outdoor tasks are sort of lawn and garden maintenance, car maintenance, fix-it projects, and sometimes we throw financial management in with male-coded tasks as well. These are things that can happen on weekends, and if you don't mow the lawn one Saturday, you might annoy your neighbor, but it's not going to be as problematic as, for example, not feeding your kids. So there's flexibility that comes with those outdoor intermittent tasks, and there's lack of flexibility with those indoor routine tasks. So even though we delegate this way, she does this and I do this, I think it's really important to realize that delegation doesn't always mean you're reaching parity.
There's also been real progress over the past several decades, especially among younger couples who are having more open and honest conversations about how to better divide responsibilities so it feels more like a partnership. Looking ahead, Mangino points out that long-term change starts even earlier with how parents, caregivers, and teachers shape expectations for young girls and boys.
I think we still raise girls with this unspoken objective in their life that they are going to take care of a domestic space, that they should prioritize domestic space over income generation. And I think it's the opposite with boys. We raise them with the implicit message that to provide for a family, you need to earn money. So a lot of women, I think, fall into this cognitive labor role. And people say, oh, it's her personality, or she's just really good at multitasking, or, she's good at all those little things in the house. I don't actually think it's about our personality. I think women are sort of trained to take care of the home, and that multitasking and that skill set that she's learned throughout her life to do those things is more a coping mechanism to meet social expectations of what she's going to do when she grows up and is a mom.
She believes that young girls today are more empowered. They're taught that you can have it all, an ambitious career and a family if you want it. But she says there hasn't been as much movement in how we bring up boys.
I think there's a lot of work we could do in helping boys to learn how to be caregivers, to value caregiving, to understand that unpaid work in the home is also providing for your family. And I think that there's work to be done with boys and young men to sort of prepare them to be more equal partners in their home and to take on those cognitive labor tasks.
She adds that involving young boys in routine household work and caregiving roles from an early age can help reset expectations over time.
I think just as we look at little girls who hold their dolls and take them for a walk in a pretend stroller and say, oh, she's pretending to be a mommy, I think we need to have that same language with little boys and say, oh, you'd be a great daddy someday. Can you give your doll a hug and a kiss? When boys are a little bit older, try to find ways that boys can babysit, be caregivers for, smaller children in the family or neighbor kids. Involve boys in caregiving for older adults in your family. And by the time they're teenagers, you can have really specific conversations about how important caregiving is to the family and how much your family values unpaid work, and talking about cognitive labor. Make the invisible visible. So it's hard enough for your partner to see the work that maybe you're doing that isn't as obvious, but we also have to make that invisible work obvious to our kids as well.
And conversations about improving gender equality at home aren't about assigning blame. The end goal is to work better together as a couple so each person feels supported. To some, it may seem like gender equality is only directed at improving women's lives. But Mangino argues that it benefits both men and women.
When men are pushed into their masculinity box, this is what you're going to do. You're going to earn a paycheck. You're going to provide for your family in a material way, and you're not expected to provide for them in an emotional or a caregiving way. I think that you are limiting what men can do just as much as when you limit what women can do by saying you have to have a focus on the home.
To learn more about this topic and our guest, Kate Mangino, visit viewpointsradio.org. Also, check out her book, Equal Partners, Improving Gender Equality at Home, available in bookstores and online. This segment was written by our executive producer, Amirah Zaveri. I'm Gary Price.